Remembering back 40, maybe 45 years ago, when my father began vegetable growing on a larger scale, I remember him building up the soil in stages. First, he used old wooden railway ties, which became more and more plentiful as the Newfoundland Railway began to wind down. Those ties would indicate the barrier between the lawn and where the soil would find a new bed. The earth would be hauled in by the cartload or the trailer cartload in our backyard. By hand and with shovel and rake, he would spread it and level it. And over future growing seasons, he would add things to it, knowing that the soil wasn't exactly right. He would add manure one year from a local farmer friend, and then rest kelp, a species of seaweed from the beach just behind our home, on top of the beds. Then he'd scatter 6-12-12 fertilizer over top and mix that in. After seeds got planted, he'd sprinkle more 6-12-12 over the top and water everything. We always got the rain we had hoped for. Dad had faith and determination in his vegetable gardening, and we had faith in him. He always managed to produce a good yield, a good crop every year. The way my father nurtured his garden with patience and perseverance gave me insight into the caring nature that Jesus has for us, as described in the parable of the fig tree. In the first part of this scripture, Jesus is commenting on people's response to tragic news of the day. It is thought that the first part of scripture refers to a massacre of a group of Galilean pilgrims in Jerusalem by Pontius Pilate. Human brutality is age-old. Jesus also comments on a tragic accident. Somehow, a part of a stone tower collapsed without warning and killed 18 people. Tragedy is constant through time. We too know about human brutality and tragedy. Current news is full of it. In the course of our human journey, we are all likely to face dark times and times of struggle. In response to his reaction, to the reaction of the people around him to the news of tragic events, Jesus shares the parable of the fig tree. With it, he suggests that there are ways to keep tragedy from overwhelming us and leaving us empty and barren. The passage from Luke joyfully demonstrates that we are never alone, even in the darkest of times. Jesus is with us. Additionally, there are friends and companions who journey with us, supporting us, encouraging us, and providing the nurturing asked for in this parable. We need that nurturing care so that we can grow in faith and have the capacity to turn it into nurturing others. We need to receive and give that nurturing with perseverance and patience. The parable asks for nurturing even when we're not sure what the outcome will be. The gardener, who we could liken to Christ, asks the owner for grace to be given, for more time to try a few new things and see if the tree cannot be brought back to health. We are to remember that the barren fig tree in the scripture represents humanity struggling in dark times. The health of the tree represents the wellness and the thriving of us, of people. The gardener pleads for time to try new things, to put manure or fertilizer around it, to water it with different amounts of or frequency of water. In all of these efforts made to help the tree thrive, I'm sure there was also hope. With each modification of care or additional effort, the hope was that new growth would come about eventually. Sometimes nurturing requires trying different and new things. We visited the Chipembe College of Agriculture during our time in Zambia. The students demonstrated for us how they set and care for the soil beds before planting. They showed how they filled the trenches with yellows and browns, inorganic material from straw and long dead grass. Second, they spread on top of that green leafy material from trimmings. Then the students demonstrated how they completed the process by adding a layer of soil on top and then watering. This process helps to maintain the fertility and the nutrition of the soil. It also showed us how the agriculture industry and skill development are so important in Zambia. What we have witnessed in Zambia is growth. But what we witness in recent decades in North America is decline in our mainline churches, including in the United Church of Canada. A May 2023 Broadview magazine article gave a brief overview of the United Church. It said that the United Church tracking of membership between 2011 and 2021 showed a drop from about 480,000 to roughly 350,000 people, and a decline in church attendance from over 165,000 to under 120,000 people. There are churches all over Canada struggling to remain open, but there is also hope. In 2022, the United Church released a strategic plan which made growth a key priority. The plan includes working to build new church communities for immigrant populations, to start initiatives that target Francophones, young adults, and people with disabilities. The national office is working with Indigenous church leaders to help start new church plants and online ministries. It is recognized that new ways of doing church and growing faith are needed now more than ever. Here in the southeast corner of Ottawa, 5 local churches, including Emmanuel, have formed a cluster group. The intent is to strengthen each other through sharing ideas and doing some things together. During COVID, we looked for ways to connect with each other. A Tuesday morning Zoom group was formed here at Emmanuel and continues today with leadership from Ron McDonald and Steve Taylor. This group is a prime example of nurturing each other in new and different ways. The work to grow and strengthen congregations in their life and faith is a work of nurturing and hope. The parable suggests that the transformative work of nurturing our faith and relationships requires perseverance and time. In the Aesop fable, The Crow and the Pitcher, a crow, half dead with thirst, came upon a pitcher, which had once been full of water, but when the crow put its beak into the mouth of the pitcher, he found that only very little water was left in it, and that he could not reach far enough down to get at it. Oh, he tried and he tried, but at last had given up in despair. But then a thought came to him, and he took a pebble and dropped it into the pitcher. Then he took another pebble and dropped it into the pitcher. Then he took another pebble and dropped it into the pitcher. He continued to drop pebbles into the pitcher until at last he saw the water mount up near him. And after casting in a few more pebbles, he was able to quench his thirst and save his life. Little by little does the trick. We often want to have quick results for our efforts, but sometimes that doesn't happen. Sometimes progress is slow and steady. Sometimes we recognize that we can't do it all on our own. We need the power of collective effort and wisdom. We need the benefits of collective energy. We are encouraged to show perseverance in the efforts that we put in to grow our faith, and in the work that we do to help others. The parable also shows that nurturing requires patience. The gardener says to the landowner, "Let's not be too hasty. Don't give up on the tree just yet." In the same way, people of faith need to give ourselves time. Faith development is a journey. And like any journey, it too takes time. Planting the seeds of faith not only requires effort and resources, we need patience to see the fruits of our learning and actions. As an example, relationships with our global partners did not happen overnight. It took time and effort to build those relationships. After having returned from Japembi, I've seen how this has happened. Strength is happening between them and us. And we realize that us includes Bell's Corners United Church and Emmanuel United Church. We are reshaping the partnership to ensure that all three parties are included in the partnership. Instead of sort of separating us out, it's a three-way partnership among the three of us to be global partners and do the things that we do together. The faith and dedication of both people in Japembi and the people who are from these churches is inspiring. Patience is needed as the church tries new initiatives to help us better serve our current congregations and to help us grow. Some things will work and some things will be less successful, but patience and perseverance are the keys, and not giving up. The church is a place and a people who are called to work on strengthening our faith. And the parable of the fig tree is an illustration of how Christ responded to news of tragic events at that time, and how Christ sees humanity overcoming them by actively nurturing and allowing for growth and change. As a community of faith, we recognize the need to keep working on ourselves and our faith. Our minds are called to be open wider the more we do together. As you think about our community and your faith, what are you nurturing? What results are you waiting expectantly to see? Are you willing to put in some effort and approach it with perseverance and patience? This is what we're called to do. May God go with us, keeping us well. Thanks be to God.